Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel. And for so many likes. The first story. I'm in compliance with my boss's work orders, and I will continue to be so until he apologizes. The second story. Company asked me to write a BS review to scare a client into paying more for the same services. It cost them dearly in the end. The third story. Manager ordered me to wear pants to work or he will fire me. I left my job. Today's first story is, boss told me to stop thinking and do my job. Sure thing. So I work in a relatively small company that does data erasing and recycling of IT equipment. I was the first man hired on the ground, and I'm now 2 years later the go-to guy if my own boss is out of the office. Which is to say, anything wrong with the program my boss wrote, anything wrong with the computer, or someone not knowing what or how to proceed with anything, you go to me. For some time, it had been just put to be decided where I was mostly needed if we didn't have anything that needed to go out of the store. Ordered shipment that was to be packed and a delivery ordered, and it was up to myself to set up working hours. I usually did 9 to 5, with overtime later or at Saturdays, and there was balance in the universe. Then a good 2 months ago, part of the company was finally sold. We lost access to the old mother company and their resources. Tech support and general support staff that had knowledge I never knew existed. And with them, some contracts that really hurt. Oh well, I was doing my job. In my mind, quite well, but I'm also very biased, and tried keeping us up to date. But I slowly realized that me having to do 3 different things meant we got more and more behind in my main section. Data erasing, and if I pushed there to keep up to date, the location where units are cleaned and graded for future reselling was behind. AKA the position I was not at wasn't doing too hot. All the while we had a guy, doing very well, registering new units that needed to be erased, or at the very least tested, so we had an issue. I contacted my boss, first to inform him that we had an issue, and that our weekly output wouldn't match what we had expected initially, if I was to start helping with the other sections. He looked at me tiredly and just told me to do my best and focus on my position, while sighing. Again, I cover everything, but I'm hired to make sure units get erased. I started putting out units in what is meant to be a 24-hour, max 48-hour wait, after bearing erased, before they're started in the next section is quickly getting out of hand. We're talking about 100 units that's on hold after a few days. This is bad. I start being told from my boss that the line is backed up, and he wants me to do something about it starting next Monday. I say sure thing. Not everyone knows if you move someone from one position to another, he clearly can't function in both, right? Wrong. My boss seems to expect me to have arms like Mr. Fantastic, because he starts whining to me the following week that we're not erasing enough units. I'm trying to explain the issue, but I don't know if he's having a rough day, or he's stressed out of his mind. But I'm met with the oh-so-famous, don't think, just do your job. Geez, okay, I mean, you sure? If you give me an order, I'll follow it. And this job, while nice, isn't paying me enough to warrant carrying, so yeah, okay. The last 2 weeks, I'm writing this on Saturday, the 11/12/2021. I've been focusing only on erasing. Have we had sick people that meant the other locations have had issues? Not my problem. I focused on my station. Was the boss seemingly doing something that was important? Well, sorry, coworker, I think you need to either talk with bossman or send him a mail. I'm told to prep an outgoing delivery and order its shipment. I write a confirmation mail and don't start until I have it in writing that I'm to leave my station to do this. This actually causes my boss to scratch his head, as I never done this. Friday the 10th of December, my boss called me over, and he asks me if everything is well. I ask why, and he tells me that while we're erasing enough units, our line is super backed up, and asks me if I hadn't noticed. Of course I had, I'm standing next to it. Apparently we had units that was about 3 weeks overdue in the system, as they hadn't moved from when my station gave it the clear, and we had about 1,100 units, mostly laptops, waiting to be cleaned and erased. Why had I not done anything about it? I just said, well, I was told to do my job. He made the surprised Pikachu face. I could see he was getting annoyed, and he told me to go back to work, so he could think about a solution. And after about 30 minutes he came over to me, and my main coworker, and told us that on Monday we would have to really make an effort, and get something done with the units down there. My coworker who I trained has never had to do that section. He will be able to, especially if we both go down there, but he will be slow and ineffective, and it'll just remove the output in our main section. If I go down there, I'll only be able to keep the boat afloat, so to speak, as I won't outphase my coworker, nature of the station, and he won't produce enough. So we're caught in a sort of Ouroboros loop. I have and I am in compliance with my boss's work orders, and I will continue to be so, until he apologizes and gives me autonomy back to fix his screw-up. I am waiting acceptance to go back to studying before I quit, and while I don't think unreplaceable, I think my boss, and the owner who I didn't mention, fail to see how many things they've put on my plate. I don't want to overinflate my own value, but 2 people might not be enough. I'm the main guy on the floor, and when we get a unit that's tricky but doable, I'm usually the one that finds the solution. And I'm saving my boss a decent amount of time by being the go-to guy. Plus, when an order is messed up, I'm the only one that can and will go in on the weekends to get it sorted. I'm by no means irreplaceable, but well, I guess it's hard to accurately pinpoint how much work I am doing versus how many hats I have on. More than anything, I think they would need at least 2 guys to manage the different positions. This would in turn over time result in a higher output, as I'm unable to do both positions at the same time, and a part-timer to do the overtime I put in when something goes wrong. The next story is, want me to BS a review to get more business? Have fun losing money? Background. I was working as a contractor for a big firm, where clients go for specific services, and then we're assigned to that company on a subcontractor basis. The firm charges the clients an arm, a leg, and a kidney or 2, while paying us a tiny percentage of the sales. Business is business, and I can't complain about that. When it's time to renew the contract with the client, every 3 months, we're supposed to write a review about what's going on and what should be done in the next term. Now for the story. I worked on that project for 2 months, and I had a very good relationship with the employees and their CEO, and everything was peachy until my company wanted the client to pay double for additional services, and wanted me to write a bogus review stating that their current situation was absolute SH, and they should go for the new and improved plan. Moreover, I was supposed to do it by 7 p.m., 1.5 hours away, and it was my day off. I was in the middle of a trip with friends, and I said no can do and hang up. It was Friday. I didn't check my emails until Monday morning. Guess who woke up to 17 emails from the company and 2 from my client? I checked the client's email first, and the CEO had personally emailed me asking what was going on, and why was my company pressuring them to sign a new contract when the old one was still active. I didn't say anything, and told him that I'll check it out and get back to him. Not a minute passed before I got a call from my team leader. TL, why didn't you write the report on Friday? Me, on my day off? TL, you should be available whenever we want you to do something. Me, what if I was sick or in the hospital? What would you have done then? TL, but you were not, and we expect you to do as we say because you're bound by employee rulebook. Me, as you may know, I'm not one of your employees but a contractor. We have specific dates and times we work, and you can't just call me on a day off and ask me to work out of the blue. That would be against my contract with your company. By the way, since the client's current contract is still active for a month, the review has to be written after the contract ends. Not before. It's even written in the contract you signed off. TL, I don't care about semantics. Write a review by the end of the day. Me, I'm not gonna BS the review. TL, you have to do as we say or you're fired. Malicious compliance time. He said I had to write the BS review, but didn't mention anything about the real review. So I wrote the real review, and under that I wrote, the review Mr. Blank asked me to write, and wrote the BS review. Send it to the client and CC'd the TL, all the other contractors, the execs, and anyone who had the faintest idea about the project. I wish I was there to see their faces when they received the email. Best part? They tried to fire me, but couldn't due to the terms of the contract, so I had no work, but full pay for 4 months. My PC was locked, so I went to the office every day, brushed up my resume and started sending emails all day while having free coffee and tea. The client I was working for hired me the next week as a freelance consultant, so I was getting double the income, though for 4 months, and stopped going to the company altogether. The CEO was a powerful guy, and he immediately sent an email to all the businesses he knew, and no one renewed their contract, resulting in a net loss of couple million a year per company. I heard 1 or 2 companies took them to court for falsifying reports, but not sure what happened to them. It would have been an open and shut case if they did decide to go to court. I had all the emails printed out to cover my A before I lost access to my PC. The CEO would have also vouched for me as well. A couple of experts could be called in as well to verify if the BS review I had to write was actually necessary for the client or just BS. The last story is, don't want to wear pants? Then you can go home. Alright, bet. The summer after my senior year in high school, I worked collecting shopping carts at a grocery store. I lived on the coast, so it was hot as hell during the summers. It was one of those uppity grocery chains, so we had a pretty strict dress code. White long-sleeve dress shirt, tucked into khaki dress slacks. But because I worked outside a good portion of the day, management let me wear khaki shorts and a short-sleeve button-up. All was fine until towards the end of the summer. We got a new general manager who was much stricter on policy than the old one had been. When I came in for my first shift with the new manager, he called me into his office. This is vaguely how our conversation went from what I can remember. Manager, there have been some changes. Your uniform is clearly lacking in several areas, and I'll need you to correct it. We'll need you to go home and change into pants and the provided long sleeve button up. Me thinking he had mistaken me for someone who works inside. Actually, sir, I collect carts, so I'm allowed to wear shorts. Manager, son, I said what I said. Either you adhere to the dress code or you go home. Me. So I don't have a choice but to wear pants in 90+ degree heat in the height of summer? Manager, this is the policy, and being smart with me is not getting us off on the right foot. Me. Alright then, I'm going home. Manager, good. Thank you for your understanding. I walked out of his office fully understanding that he expected me to actually come back, but his ultimatum was to either wear pants or not come to work, so I chose the latter. I was going away to college in a couple of weeks, so I chose not to sweat my balls off 6 hours a day for $7.25 an hour. I was at home about an hour later, chilling, talking to my friends on Xbox 360 Party Chat, and I got a call from my manager, furious. He was asking me why the hell I was taking so long, that we were swamped and desperately needed a cart collector. I told him I wasn't coming back. Of course, he didn't take this well. He told me to get back there right then or I would be fired, which I responded with, well, I thought that was the idea. He was absolutely dumbfounded. He hadn't expected me to call his bluff on something he considered to be so inconsequential, because he wasn't the one outside pushing carts in the heat. He tried to talk me into coming back, but I told him he gave me 2 options, and I had chosen option 2. I never went back into work. I found out that the cart collectors were only made to wear pants for a few days after that, until the new manager relented and let them wear shorts. I never got a call with an apology from him, but I didn't care. I enjoyed the time off before going to college. Edit. Some people think it's silly of me to expect an apology. To clarify, I wasn't expecting one at the time. That's just a thought I added retroactively when writing this post almost 10 years later. He clearly realized he was wrong because he almost immediately changed his tune on requiring pants. So he chose to lose an employee over admitting he made a misstep. But I also realized that at that point, how I acted heavily contributed to his non-willingness to work with me. And I also fully realized this was an immature and unprofessional thing to do. I know I was fortunate at the time to be a teenager who didn't have a dire need for a job, so I was able to make this move. He was an a-hole from the initial approach, and I was in a position to return his fire, so I went for it. I'd never in a million years think of doing something like this at my full-time big boy job. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a nice day.